go. Let's see. It's like the attendees are still going up. All right. It looks like we have a full group today. So looking forward to the discussion. Welcome to the December Academic Achievement Committee meeting, the final Academic Achievement Committee meeting of the year.
Yeah.
It's been quite a year. The first thing on our agenda is an update from the Instructional Council.
Okay, so yeah, so thank you, Dr. Baker. Jonathan, if you don't mind, will you put up the PowerPoint as the first slide is the Instructional Council update? Okay, so Dr. Baker, members of the board, this is our Instructional Council update. It will be provided this afternoon by Dr. Malunge Kalambula and Mrs. Amy Powney. Dr. Kalambula works in social studies. Ms. Powney works with mathematics. Team?
Thank you, Dr. Gorman. Hello, members of the board and other community members who are joining us. I'm going to provide the update for the council today. And my co-chair is also online, so you can help add context if it's needed. We met on the 18th of November as a council, and it was a pretty light schedule agenda that day. We had one main event on our agenda, which was the new course proposal from Southwest Community Campus Middle High School. And they were coming to share with the council the course that's being offered there this year, the advanced placement course in Spanish, which is called Spanish Language and Culture. Just a quick context for those who don't know about our system and the course we offer in AP and GRPS. GRPS students are able to take AP courses in AP Calculus, AP English and Composition, AP English Literature, AP Psychology, AP Government and Politics, AP Econ, Economics, AP US History, AP Environmental Science, AP Computer Science Principles, AP Human Geography and Cultures, and then this year, brand new this year to us, is the AP Spanish Language and Culture that's being taught at Southwest. So with that context, we heard from the team at Southwest, very exciting that the course is being offered there to our students as freshmen. Presenting the information were Senor de la Barrera, the principal, Senor Torres, the AP, and our AP teacher, Ms. Gardner. Again, just the energy that was brought to the conversation was very rich in that Ms. Gardner had worked with the College Board this summer as part of our AP Summer Institute to refine and prepare the syllabus for the course. It was submitted and it's been approved for our students to get AP credit for having taken the AP course there. As you see in your notes, board members, the AP course is a college level course that students take in high school. And when the students score a 3 or better on the course, they can get college credit for having gone through a rigorous college course. Also, this course are seen as, shows the rigor of a student preparation to succeed in college courses. So Ms. Gardner and the team at Southwest is working very hard to provide our students this opportunity to succeed in this course. Some of the content that is talked about in the course, as you may look in your notes, students are really introduced and encouraged to explore themselves as individuals, as well as looking at the influences of culture and language within the world of the Spanish speaking world. They are challenged to look at factors that impact the quality of life across cultures that they are studying in areas where Spanish is spoken. Even looking at the how environment and politics play a role in impacting the Spanish-speaking world. So this course is a very robust course. In looking at just the scope, really, the energy that Ms. Gardner brought to the conversation can be felt in that she feels very strongly in helping students see themselves and succeeding in a high-level course. Because sometimes, as the culture portrays, multilingualism, not always as a high regard, she works very hard to show students that the language, Spanish language, matters. They have a place in promoting the language and being culturally competent in that, and also that they will do well on the AP exam when that comes. Now, just knowing that our students are taking the course as freshmen, the AP exam is given every year in May. So because they've been prepared without being immersed in Spanish and not taking the AP language course, we are hopeful that they will produce and do well on the exam in May, because the course has been backwards mapped from the exam date to now. So they are prepared every day towards the goal of achieving well on the exam. We also heard from the team at Southwest that our students are being prepared in that when they finish this course as freshmen, they also are getting prepared for the next AP course, which will be the AP composition and language, which is be involving more writing when that time comes. So preparation happened for this course with the pre-AP course they take now. They took as middle schoolers, and now they are taking AP as freshmen, and they are take AP again as juniors to prepare for the graduation when that time comes. But overall, it was a very, very well set up presentation, and the council supported the course unanimously, and we are very excited to have Southwest lead the way in offering this AP course for our students. I will take questions if you have any. Thank you so much for listening to the presentation.
This is the AP course a year-long or a semester-long course?
Yeah, this is a year-long course. So students take it starting in August and until the exam date in May.
So the first class that will have this course is next year. It's freshman.
No, sir. The freshmen right now at Southwest, the ninth graders there are taking the course now.
Oh, they're taking it currently. Okay, that's okay. That's good to know. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple of questions. I'm wondering how the Southwest model, if you will, for lack of a better word, is being utilized to help Spanish teachers across the district to better implement Spanish in the respective courses throughout the district. So not just in terms of Southwest obviously being a particular school, but I'm just wondering how they're using what those teachers are learning in teaching other teachers how to teach in that regards to, for example, at Burton and then at Buchanan. How are those? Is there any cross-pollinating in that?
Yes, sir. It's a very good question. So I know also I'm part of the council member here. I also lead our language programs in the district, and I can attest to the fact that we have a cross-district PLC or professional learning community that is connected, and teachers get together and we share lesson plans, we share ideas. Most recent example, for example, on our November 3rd, Professional Development Day, we had teachers brought ideas from across the district and talked about how can we best serve our students through virtual learning. Teachers at Southwest are bringing what they've used and learned over the years across to other colleagues. So students across the district who are taking Spanish in all the schools that you mentioned are getting the benefit of the immersion experience at Southwest, but also the training they provide through our professional learning communities across. Yes, sir. So there is cross-pollination and collaboration.
Great.
My question is, given that it's a dual immersion school, is this AP course providing something that would be in addition to what the kids would already, if they're heading into college, wouldn't they already probably comp out of Spanish courses in college, given that they know Spanish, or, because they've taken it for so long?
Yes, it's a very good question. So I know right now, as we are working with Southwest in looking at our model, do emerging language model, and looking at how do we set proficiencies. For sure, the AP course adds another layer of scrutiny that they are looking at really college level content. And beyond just the producing the language production process, and students have the writing rigor that's being added to the course prepares for the academic language and support of college. So
gotcha.
Yeah, immersion is great, but we know sometimes students fall short and lack the producing of academic written communication, and that is being really infused in this course as part of the rigor.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, as a follow-up, so are you saying that because they've taken the AP courses, they're taking the AP test and then getting college credit for it when they go, or they still have to?
So right now, the AP has a few benefits. For sure, being in an AP course gives students benefits over selection other students for admission in colleges, because the transcripts they looked at and they say, okay, this student is taking a rigorous college course in high school. That's one leg up in admission processes.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is when they pass the AP exam with a 3 or higher, for sure they're able to get out of the early low-level college courses in the language. So they actually are placed in a higher course when they go to college, because they've achieved this milestone in high school. And then that gives them a chance to go further in the language courses in college as they pursue. But this foundation really is that by doing well in this course, it gives them a advantage across other students.
So, and it's from my understanding, it's like other AP courses where the university that a student applies to, that university will set a standard as to what score receives what level of college credit, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So it's not like they're taking a college credit course and they're taking that course with them. It's that the university that they're going to is granting college credit for that particular course.
Yes, sir. Perfectly said. Yes.
And then also I want to remind, this goes back to John's earlier question, that the committee, the last, at a previous instructional council update, we learned about the Spanish for native speakers courses being offered now too. So it does sound like these are some really positive examples of moving towards increasing the opportunities for Spanish speakers.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's move on.
Okay, thank you. So here is today's agenda. There are many items on the agenda today. Usually we have 1 or 2 items for academic achievement. When we got to the last slide at academic achievement last time, the question was asked, which topics would you like to see in the future? So these are some topics that we heard last time. The first of which is, how are we doing from a participation rate, so to speak? And when we talk participation during this distance learning period of time, this is how many students are engaging weekly with synchronous instruction. How many students, or how many times are students going to class virtually synchronously every single week? So what we're going to share with you is not examples or are not examples of those asynchronous times. These are examples of synchronous times. So we'll share some district level examples with you. Remember last time we shared there was a dip in participation rates as a result of some map testing, some abbreviated weeks, etc. So we have a report for you this time. And then also some school level examples. We want to show you some comprehensive schools, our test in school, and then various parts of the city as it relates to participation. After that brief presentation, we will go into our platform update. And when we say platforms, we're talking about Schoology, which of course is our pilot program, which is being offered at 3 sites. Seesaw, which is being used in our elementary classrooms, and of course Google Classroom, which is being used at the secondary level. After that, we're going to have a teacher evaluation update. That was a request that was made last time, and also a social emotional learning update. So to help me today, I have Jonathan Harper, who's going to be assisting with the platform piece, as well as Eric Harmson. Eric's also going to help with the evaluation update. And then Natasha Neal and Mel Atkins are going to help with the SEL update. So Jonathan, could we move to the district level participation? So if you look at participation from late August, we started with about 12,218 students participating during synchronous time, which is about 83%. As we have gone through this virtual time, you will notice that there was a significant dip on 10/26 to 10/30 or around that period of time. There were many things going on in the district, again, abbreviated weeks, etc. A classroom setup, some professional learning as we were planning on getting ready for some type of face-to-face instruction. And then you'll notice from that point, participation ticked up to about 80 to 70% to 85% to 90%. And now from 11:16 to 11:20, there's a slight dip again to 84.62%. So 86% of our students are engaging synchronously during this time. Of course, this model or this chart does not account for the opportunities for students who are having challenges logging in between 9 and 12. There are students who are connecting with their teachers during those non-traditional hours, some in the afternoon, some are reaching out by phone, et cetera, et cetera. There are some that have barriers to virtual learning, and we've brought that up in the past. One adjustment that we have made the last couple of weeks, of course, collaborating with the teachers union, is we've added one more day of synchronous time for our elementary students. And we've also given our teachers flexibility in the afternoons to work with small groups of students who maybe need some more support, who may be failing some classes or just sometimes need a little extra attention. So we've added one more synchronous day for elementary school. So that's Monday through Thursday, 9 o'clock until 12 o'clock, all synchronous. In the afternoons, there are small groups to which students are invited. The teacher has full discretion as it relates to who's invited to those groups. In most instances, it's based on students exhibiting some challenges in classrooms. Again, the high school model, Monday through Thursday, 3 hours of synchronous instruction all of those days, and then work in the afternoon, mostly tied to the morning work. Let's move on from this slide and just start unpacking some schools. This is, of course, Palmer. Palmer is located on the northeast side. It is a neighborhood school. You can see that throughout time, they've had 150 students participate. I think that's the lowest number. It has been as high as 181. And right now, for this last period of time, we monitored about 177 students are logging in during synchronous time, which is about 94%. Next slide, we have this Dickinson. Dickinson, of course, a school on the southeast side of town. 318 students enrolled, 293 students have been participating during synchronous times, and that's 92.14%. I believe that is the highest percentage that they've had of students participating. And, you know, although there are some students who are missing from these data, you know, our hats are going off to the teachers, support staff, and the principals who are, you know, contacting families when students aren't logging in during those synchronous times. So again, you know, we still have a few students to find, but, you know, 92% compared to some of the unfortunate, sad stories we're hearing around the state where lots of kids are disconnected. 92 is good. It's not great. And we're striving for 100 in all of our schools. Next, we'll take a look at C.A. Frost, a theme school, environmental science school on the northeast side. 495 students enrolled at the current time, 486 students currently participating. The first week, they were 98.56. Right now, they're 98.18. So a couple of student difference from the first week. But as you can see, you know, relatively consistent with high rates of students engaging during synchronous time. Next, we'll take a look at Union, which is our largest comprehensive high school. There are 960 students enrolled. 894 students have been participating during synchronous time, which is 93%. I think the highest they were was early November with 95%. So again, that's lots of students to monitor, lots of students to educate, and that 93 is a pretty good number. But even though I'm saying it's a pretty good number, there's still, what's that, about 66 students that are not participating, during synchronous time.
Ron,
Go ahead, please, Dr. Baker.
maybe I should have waited till the next slide, but
Yeah, the last slide is the last school I have, so it's totally up to you. The last school slide I have.
yeah, this is different. One of the things I wondered about the Union example is the fewer students enrolled seem to drop by 100, 150 kids. And
yep. So one thing, Dr. Baker, and of course I'll look at it more closely now that I've gotten that question from you. You know, keep in mind those first couple of weeks of school, there are students who are either enrolled in the building or are carried over from the elementary school that they attended, or these are students we thought were going to show up those first couple of weeks of school. And then there's a period of time, early October, where we drop our students when they haven't shown up even for one day of school. So my hunch is, and Union fluctuates. There's a year that Union can have, gosh, over 1,100 students, and there's another year where they're closer to where they are now, 900, 950. But usually when you see those numbers in the first couple of weeks of school, these are students who we were anticipating that they were coming to school. But for whatever reason, when it was all said and done, either we had more or less. So that's my hunch. I can dig into that a little more deeply for you to see why the numbers were significantly different from the end of September to that next week. And as I'm looking at the data, it's around count day. And so I'm assuming there was some data cleanup, and that 960 number is probably closer to where we actually are. And that 1118 is probably what was expected. And we could look at that historically, but there are times when a comprehensive school like Union, they're expecting, let's say, 1,000 students. They may get 1,000 students, but they may lose 200 and gain a 200 that they didn't know were coming. So I'll take a close look at that, Dr. Baker, and get that answer for you. Yeah,
because even if you look at, say, the week of September 28, you have, well, in the previous week too, you have more students participating that week than are enrolled currently.
Yep.
So what explains the loss of those students?
Yeah, let me take a look at that, Dr. Baker, and I'll get a response for you for next time, if not before.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll take a look at city. City had 929 students enrolled in late August. Now they have 916 students enrolled. Every student has been engaged synchronously at City. Of course, our test in school on the northeast side of town. So again, as a school district, and these were just some examples, we tried to give you some neighborhood schools, some theme schools, of course, our test in school, dancing around 85% of our students who are engaging synchronously during synchronous time every single week. And again, 85, we know we have students who are participating during non-synchronous times, and we have students who are disengaged from the learning process at the current time. Before we get into the distance learning platform, are there any other questions about the participation piece?
I'm just wondering, what is the total number of students enrolled, and then perhaps what we expected, and now what actually is, or if any losses, what are they?
Yep. So I will, the superintendent is going to provide a report to all of you, I believe, before the next Board of Education meeting, where you will receive our audited numbers. So I don't want to get ahead of the superintendent, but those numbers will be provided to you soon, Reverend Matias, either in a communication to you and then be made public. But I'll let the superintendent provide those audited numbers to you, if that's okay.
I do have one question.
Absolutely, Ms. Grant.
So when we're looking at the individual schools, so for example, the CA Frost numbers, there was a week in there where they had about 57% participation. I know it was also around the same time that all of those schools were trending down a bit, but if we're seeing a particular school have a lower number than most schools, which we only saw a handful, so I don't
Sure.
know what all the numbers are, but
Yep.
if we're seeing that one school is seeing a lower number overall or a lower number in a certain week, what are we doing to find out, okay, what's happening here and how can we help address that?
Absolutely. So our Chief of Staff, Larry Johnson, provides the numbers of all schools to the cabinet level staff every single week. The executive directors in the district, of course, are assigned to groups of schools. The executive directors have about 10 schools that they are assigned to. If the executive directors are noticing that participation rates are down, or if they are up, if they are down, that's where there's a real sense of urgency. The executive director works with the principal. Many schools have protocols in place where once the executive director contacts the principal, they look at the numbers. The first immediate action is to look at those students who aren't engaging, and then reaching out to those families. In this space that we're in right now, of course, we're calling families. We are not doing home visits to ensure that we want to ensure that our staff members are safe as well. But home visits, reaching out to other families that we know are connected to some of the families that aren't showing up. I mean, really some grassroots efforts. But at the end of the day, all of the principals are being held accountable for the students who aren't participating. So it's their job to reach out to those families to figure out what the challenge is. Is it a technological challenge? Do we need to help with technology? Does the student need a hotspot? Does the student need Wi-Fi? So Ms. Grant, we monitor it that's a long way of saying we monitor it every single week, but the executive director works with principals and teachers for those students who aren't showing up.
Thank you. And so are we seeing any, outside of hotspots and laptops, what are some other trends that we are seeing that may be hindering students from being engaged?
Yeah, some of the secondary principals are reporting many students are taking on employment during this time. So that's something that we're hearing loud and clear, because there's a little more, some would say, flexibility with the school day, where it's not that traditional 6 hours. So, it's our expectation that of course students are participating in school. As you know, things can change rather quickly. We're planning on heading into a hybrid model. Hopefully one day we can get back to 100% face-to-face instruction. But that's one thing we heard from the secondary principals, where students are taking on some additional commitments because there's not that traditional 6-hour school day. So that's one thing. It may be a barrier, but we also understand that, you know, students are trying to do whatever they can to help their families in many instances. So we want to, you know, be very sensitive when addressing these things. But of course, you know, we are holding school, but that's one challenge that was brought to us by some of the secondary principals. There are some families that we've heard from that are saying that they're just not comfortable with the technology. And so even though it's provided, it's still, you know, we don't want to navigate it. We'd rather not do it. We'd rather not, I guess, show we don't want folks looking into our homes. So there's some privacy issues as well that are going on when you have virtual instruction. But for the most part, Ms. Grant, it's, you know, we're following up with those calls. We're trying to get kids engaged. And again, 85% is not where we want to be. But I think the reason we're at 85 is because folks are being really relentless about calling families, et cetera.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Dr. Baker, if there are no further questions about that, and of course, if there are throughout the presentation, we can address those questions. Right now, let's get into the distance learning platform update. So last spring, we made a decision to use an online platform called Seesaw, which really supports our elementary classes. The best way to describe it is, from a parent perspective, really a one-stop shop where parents and students can log in and all of the resources are right there, so they don't have to go to numerous sites. So again, Seesaw is something we had for all elementary schools in the spring. Google Classroom was a platform with which many of our secondary folks had familiarity. So therefore, we stuck with that platform throughout the spring, and then we've also stuck with it throughout this fall semester as well. Schoology is being piloted right now in 3 programs, the Westwood Middle School program, Burton Middle School program, and then at the museum program. The museum program, of course, has middle school programming and high school programming. The teachers and the principals were on board to use Schoology, and that's being piloted right now. So without any further ado, I'm going to have Jonathan Harper and Eric Harmson share a little bit about our learning platforms.
Thank you, Dr. Gorman. So just briefly, I'll talk about Seesaw and Google Classroom, and then Eric's going to jump on and give a little bit more detail regarding this the Schoology pilot. So first, I do want to thank our instructional technology team for the support they've provided for all of these platforms and helping pull this information together for us. So as Dr. Gorman mentioned, in the elementary classrooms, we have approximately 8,700 student users, active student users in our Seesaw account. And that also represents, there's additional 650 staff users that are actively using Seesaw as a learning management platform. Parents have access to the platform via their student access with their student's username. So, and we're seeing parents accessing and supporting their students on the platform. There has been professional learning provided initially in the spring. There were some jumpstart training modules that were provided, and those are actually still available. There are recorded modules that were developed with internal staff and support from Seesaw that can be accessed at any point by any staff member to review or continue to have available for support. There have been staff demonstration meetings there's quite a bit of access that happens through the vendor support website. And then there are continued planned support sessions happening into 2021. So ongoing support for this platform. And this really represents our elementary classrooms from a learning management platform perspective. As we look at Google Classroom, as Dr. Gorman mentioned, this is really our secondary learning management platform across the district, other than the Schoology pilot schools. So we have approximately 4,500 student users that are actively using Google Classroom, approximately 350 staff members using Google Classroom. And that represents approximately 1,900 active Google Classroom classes. So those are individual Google Classroom classes being facilitated by staff, by teachers, with students accessing them. Again, Google Classroom can be accessed via parents, via if they're using their students' username login information. This, as Dr. Gorman said, Google Classroom wasn't as new to the system as Seesaw was. There was some familiarity with it, but again, prior to moving to distance learning, not everyone was using it, and so. But we had been offering PD, professional development for the last 5 years or so. But there was a tremendous push to provide comprehensive PD for Google Classroom so that everyone at the secondary level was familiar and had support using it. There was online Jumpstart PD in the spring, which again, similar to the modules that were available for Seesaw, those modules are still available and can be accessed at any point by any of the secondary staff members. And then there's an extensive support website that's also available from Google as a vendor itself. Before we move to into the Schoology portion, is there any questions about Seesaw or Google Classroom? Okay. Eric, you want to take it?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening. It's nice to see everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about our pilot, Schoology. And as Dr. Gorman said, we're currently in 3 buildings, and these 3 buildings volunteered to pilot the program. The principals saw this as being a useful tool for parents, students, and staff. So it's at Burton, Westwood Middle, and Museum Middle High School. Currently, there's 900 students, 100 teachers, and 100 parents actively using Schoology at this time. Jonathan, can you switch it to the next? Thanks. So Schoology pilot, what support? And I just, I guess, go backwards just for a minute. And when we're in the meetings around Schoology, sometimes I have to be reminded that Schoology was chosen because in 2 separate times in the last few years, there was a committee that did some research on what are the best learning management systems. And the difference between Schoology and Google Classroom is Google Classroom is an instructional platform, where Schoology is a learning management system. So it's a place where you can also find all your assignments, grades, and it's more robust than a Google Classroom. So there's 2 committees that looked at several different learning management systems, and both times 2 different committees picked Schoology as the best option for the district. Some of the support that we've been providing, and I cannot give enough kudos to Craig Garib and Mike Hastings and Aaron Goch, our instructional tech people, have just done yeoman work around this. And if you had any idea what kind of year Mike Hastings has, the work he's done for the district has just been phenomenal. So We have weekly update and strategy meetings with principals. So there's a small group of us that meets every week to get feedback on what's working and not working, and how can we provide additional support for the principals, for teachers, what professional learning they need, and then also working with the vendor on providing additional support. So there was Schoology provided webinars and courses, the district provided modules, and one-on-one demand support from the instructional tech team. So those folks would get a call and say, I need help from a teacher, and they would walk the teacher through the issue. And one of the things we've not only tried to implement, not just for Schoology, but for other professional development opportunities, is having teachers and really leveraging the experts in our district who are who understand the specific needs of GRPS and how to use it in a GRPS way. So on Fridays, we've had some super user teachers who have worked with the program and are very comfortable with workshops where you could show up as a teacher at a certain time and get tips and feedback and assistance from other teachers. And then parent video and modules for them that was sent out by principals. Jonathan, if you want to go to the next slide, thanks. So with any pilot, we are evaluating it. We are going to get teacher surveys, student surveys, parents. We get the principal voice weekly. Student outcomes obviously will be a big driver on, is it going to improve student outcomes? One of the things that we're really looking for is our customer service technical support of the vendor. So we are really making sure that we're demanding from our vendors, we're investing a lot of money, and that we want to make sure that we're providing the customer service and technical support that we need. The assessment and evaluation department will be doing a formal evaluation of the pilot, and that work will be finishing up in February. And then of course, when you are evaluating the pilot, we have to look at the impact of the pandemic that may have happened with this pilot. Jonathan, you want to move? Thanks. There's been some challenges, obviously, implementing during a pandemic. I don't know if there's, a good time during a pandemic, but in ways, pandemic forced us to move in this direction. Integrating synergy and Schoology. So when you have different platforms, they don't always talk to each other in computer sense. So there's been some issues with that, but our SDS system and the vendor and our instructional tech folks and Craig has really worked to make it so those are no longer a barrier. Switching from Google Classroom. So these schools were using Google Classroom, so it was a switch, and providing support to students remotely, which is not just for Schoology, but anything we're using. Some of the things that the administrators are saying about the program is it allows them to focus on instructional practice rather than resources. They can collect data really well in one spot for them. Integrates other resources that allow for maximum use of curriculum. So these learning management systems is a way for teachers to really organize their instruction and assignments and assessments in one place and have a lot of resources, and allows for resources to be shared, and it's user friendly. What teachers are saying: can build resources, assignments, and grades in one place. Tons of tools and resources for online instruction. Grading is easier, and share and collaborate with colleagues. So that's one of the things that we're really seeing with these learning platforms is it allows teachers to share their work much more easily than in the past. Helps make greater connections to my students and their grades. And then the tools and organizations are awesome as well. And students, all of their classes are on one site, and we're piloting these in secondary, and as grades become more important and as students become more independent, Schoology is really a great tool for students to be able to see their grades, assignments they're missing. They can get their assignments more quickly. It's easier for them to turn it in. They get notifications when assignments are posted or graded. And say I'm absent rather than having to go, in the good old days where you'd go to the you'd have either have to go to your teacher, or there'd be a mailbox with information of previous assignments. They can actually access previous assignments even if they're at home or they're absent on a day, and then teachers can post recorded lessons on it. So next steps, we've learned a lot through the pilot. I can't thank enough to the administrators, students, and teachers at Westwood, Burton Middle, and the museum schools. We're going to continue to pilot in the 3 schools this year. For 2021, 2022, after the evaluation done, we're not going to make any decisions yet because we haven't evaluated. We want to get everybody's input and voices heard. And then we'll decide what we're going to do for 21, 22, if we'll implement it in secondary schools, if we'll district-wide, or will we pilot it, what else we'll do. But we're not going to make a decision till we have all the information and evaluation data of the program in February. I think it's my last Schoology. Any questions around Schoology?
It's like a good system, so appreciate that.
I guess my one question, and Eric, I don't expect all the answers right now, but since we're investing so much into being able to do virtual learning and provide flexible learning for students, of course it will still be relevant in a hybrid model, but I would love to later on hear about, even when we go back to 100% in person, how we'll be able to further use these investments. And I think it's just going to be a lot to expect kids, to jump right back into a longer day and more. I really, think this has changed many industries, but especially how our kids learn and look at school. So I would love for us to so I know we're managing a lot of fires right here at this phase, but on the long term, how do we use the money and the resources that we invested here to help us when we're back at 100%? And also, how do we adapt to help kids? Because kids have had a lot of flexibility, and to bring them back to less flexibility and much more structure so quickly is going to be interesting. I'm saying that because I have a 16-year-old, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. So I just wanted to put that out there, not necessarily a question you have to answer immediately.
Well, President Grant, I have to laugh because I also have a 16-year-old at home, and one of the ways this can help is that no more snow days, right? I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to miss a day of learning because it's snowing out. So I think there's a lot of possibilities, and this pandemic has really made us be innovative and see how these things can work during a pandemic. But we're also seeing there's a lot of ways that it can improve outcomes for students when we go back to as Dr. Baker said, the same old, same old.
So, well, one thing I would say is that just based on the products that's used at higher ed, Blackboard products, they're incredibly useful for just storing courses. I used to look at it as just storing my office and my classroom all in one place, and instead of carrying it in notebooks and stuff. So I think that this was an opportunity to kind of get ourselves up to speed. One thing that the responses that you mentioned, the administrative principal, teacher and student feedback, were those from did you just pull those out of survey responses? Are they generally well received by both teachers and students?
So the instructional tech folks put out a survey, and that was some feedback, and then some of the challenges were around the feedback we received too.
It'd be interesting to get some quantitative feedback in terms of how teachers responded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but not right away.
Right. But the other part of it too is that we've been as we go along during the pilot, we've been we want to make sure that we're getting that feedback too, to make the adjustments that we need to do this year and to provide the professional development and resources that teachers are asking for.
Okay, thanks. Anything else on that? I think we have one more topic.
Well, just
So
another question, if I may. With the schools that are piloting, were those teachers and administrators familiar with the other two platforms?
So with the schools that were piloting, if we go back to the spring, all of those buildings that we referenced were secondary buildings. They were all using exclusively Google Classroom. The reason that we moved, that we're working with Schoology with these three buildings is because those principals and staff members were on board for this. They really wanted a learning management system. They were receptive to doing the pilot, but of course, in the spring, they didn't have access to this. In fact, they had to train really quickly on all of these online resources, and they did it through mostly modules with professional learning, because you can't put a facilitator in front of folks at this time in person, of course. So, to Eric's point, the staff members really did a tremendous job in those buildings of getting up and running. Now, did they get professional learning with every single thing that Schoology has to offer? Absolutely not, but they got a really good start. So they were with Google Classroom, and they're still doing some stuff with Google Classroom, but this is the first time they got to do Schoology.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, given that the value of being able to compare and say, hey, rest of our district, or rest of the other 40 something schools, we feel like this or that will help us to do this or that if we gear up to transition into a major platform or something like that. But just the value of being able to compare and contrast and say, hey, this is the value of this. This is how it will cut our teaching time and prep time and so forth in these kind of situations in the future. So,
well, those three schools did not have Schoology in the spring, but they had it in the fall. So they will be able to make those comparisons to what you're referencing.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
So if we can move on, I know that we have we try to get, I guess it's actually two more topics.
Correct.
We do have, Julie is aware that our 5:30 responsibility with the holiday e-card is going to be postponed a few minutes, but we do have a hard stop at 5:44.
And you also have a public comment, Dr. Baker.
And we have public comment included in that. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through the next two topics.
All right. So Eric, if you could just go through this rather quickly and we can revisit it next time,
Sure.
and then we'll move to Mel and Natasha.
So the evaluation update is that there's still a ton up in the air. We're waiting for the state to provide some changes in the law. This is especially around student growth. In the past, they've waited till March and April. I'm really hoping that they don't wait that late, because it provides chaos in the state on how teachers and administrators are going to be evaluated. There is some bipartisan bills that are in the that may be passed after the lame duck session. And we're going to adjust the timeline and the process based on some feedback that we received from our academic executive directors. And next week I'll be meeting with our union leadership and some teachers to get their input. And we'll be designing what we're going to do when we come back into hybrid at that time. So I'll have more information at a later date for you with more detail.
Are these changes, are teachers involved with approving of these changes? Because I know that we'll hear concerns about appropriate number of observations to determine.
Yeah, so I'm meeting next week with teachers, and we always take some things we can't change, unfortunately. A lot of things
Right.
that that we just can't change, but we'll definitely get their feedback. And we've made changes in the past, and I think we've shown that we value their feedback, and it's about their practice, and we want to make sure that we're providing them
Okay.
with.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Dr. Baker, we will, if anyone has any questions about this evaluation piece, please email us and we will respond in a timely manner. With your permission, I know we're running short on time. May we transition to Natasha and Mel for social emotional learning?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, Mel, Natasha, please.
Yes, you want to kick it off, Natasha?
Yep, I'll take it. Good evening, everybody, and we can make this fairly quick. So just wanted to let you guys know we did a few trainings at the beginning of the school year. We worked with the PD team to make sure that our trainings are available online and through our online PD portal. A couple topics that we've trained on, or we have a training available on, is the introduction to social emotional learning, understanding trauma and its impact. And then we also did a training on how to support parents in social emotional learning. Our resources are available on the PD portal. They're also available on our Parent University website for our parents. We have resources available for our support staff as we continue to run our own Google Classroom for our staff, and continue to provide resources for them as they push in the classrooms and do pull-out groups to support students and families. We have been approved to buy a SEL curriculum, which I'm super excited for, because now, just like buying a math or reading curriculum, this is how you sort of get cohesive learning into the system. And it's important to teach social emotional skills, just like it is important to teach reading or math skills. So super excited about that. And additionally, we'll be writing an implementation guide, because we think it's extremely important that folks are sort of implementing it in the way that makes most sense for our kids and our families, as well as the district. And we will be connecting what they already do to the new learning, so it doesn't seem like an add-on, but there's a sort of a string running through what we already have in place, and just making some meaning for them and providing some context. How'd I do? Any questions?
So is that curriculum already chosen, or are you looking into which curriculum to use?
So we haven't chosen the curriculum yet. We have one that's sort of a front runner. That's because we've used it before. Some teachers are familiar with it. It's Second Steps. CASEL, which is the organization that sort of is the guru of SEL, they like this program, and it's built already into our SEL measurement platform. And so that's our front runner, but we haven't landed on anything yet.
Okay.
It would be, yeah, I'd like us as a board to really have an opportunity to look at it, its chief components, in regards to how you're, what that's going to look like. Just a couple things in regards to, for example, do you have any data on the number of calls that your counselors are getting and responding to in regards to social emotional, some of the stresses that our families are going through, whether it's behavioral or other kinds of things, where parents are reaching out and saying, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, that, and the other thing?
I'll take that one, Natasha. I can get that for you. I don't have it with me. We're going to write that down, and I'll make sure we either share it at the next meeting or share it in between meetings.
And then Reverend Matthias, we can also provide an update to you as it relates to the review process for the SEL curriculum that Natasha is referencing. We can do that as well in a subsequent meeting.
Yeah, in my opinion, it'd be nice to get that. I don't know if it'll happen before our board meeting, but something where we really have some some solid information in regards to some of the stressors that our families are experiencing and how we are meeting it directly as the district and then in kind, whatever. But really having a good, I'd like to see us have a good response to, hey, this is what we understand our families are going through, and this is how we are responding to these kinds of issues.
Reverend Matias, I don't know, the board meeting is Monday. I don't know if we can get you before Monday, but of course I'll connect with Mel and Superintendent. Maybe it can be in a weekly update or something comparable to that, or maybe it can even be addressed. So let our team work on that for you, Reverend Matias.
That's good. And I appreciate the other, I know that you're reaching out to community groups as well to help with that work. So any other questions regarding this portion of the presentation?
Excited to see a concerted effort. Really, really exciting.
Thank you, Natasha and Mel. That was a great, your part was significant. Well said. So,
that concludes our presentation, Dr. Baker.
Craig, I believe we have one public comment. And Lisa Honeycutt is our public today.
Hi.
So if you can, we'll try to follow the regular procedures, introduce yourself, and then let us know what's on your mind.
Thank you for this time. And I have to say, I'm Lisa Honeycutt. I'm a teacher since 99-2000, fine arts, music, and I've been all over the district in all capacities, K-12, teach at GRCC, a lot of those kind of things. I've always been passionate about this district. Why would I stay here 20 years? I'm a Rolling Stones kind of musician also, but this district is very important. So I made that commitment. It is interesting to have the juxtaposition of public comment was first, now it's at the end. And I appreciate that. I can tweak my words. What I wanted to read was about our current situation and referring to rubrics and processes that are from last year that don't exactly fit into what we're doing right now. I appreciate all of the work Dr. Gorman spoke to. We worked with them. Some of us had I'm so grateful for this. We had the opportunity to work right with the cabinet members and with tech, with delivery of the educational, system and all of that. What I was going to say is in a matter of months, I humbly request we reevaluate the processes and rubrics used to define current educational successes. In a matter of months, the messaging went from gratitude and positive responses for all educators and employee departments to some experiencing scrutiny and distrust. That is not across the district, but it's a lot. And there seems to be a disconnect between the return to school plan that educators had a big part in with cabinet members and the superintendents, but to the disconnect somewhere between that group and the educators themselves. We've seen a lot of things redirected and adjusted. We're always adjusting, which we don't mind, but it's turned into more of what am I doing, all accountability on the educator, as opposed to, excuse me, with my 900 students, we've already pivoted 1,000 times. We're going to keep doing that because it's our nature. But what I did 2 years ago in this past school year doesn't really play out right now. Please lessen that workload. And I know that was Dr. Gorman. That was his, what I experienced, that was the messaging. So somewhere between, I'm going to get in trouble here, a principal's meeting and then the educator, it seems that is not that level of design, and the direction of that design, return to school, return to learn, is not being translated correctly. We had the overwhelming support to add more time for asynchronous and synchronous learning. We're educators, we're going to do that. Instead of just letting us have that autonomous time, which was the messaging, it's been highly manipulated and managed now for some. And we're losing that natural, creative educator that you've hired, that you've entrusted us, to do our jobs. So anyway, I don't want to say exactly what I wrote in the card because I got to hear a lot of the presentation. I would just ask that we reevaluate evaluations, tripod, really, and all these other things that have to do with data crunching the educators, and let us meet the needs, the social emotional learning, which we know how to do and want to do, and continue in our learning this new way of tech for many people. My card the writing is there. You can refer back to it. And I just want to say, I know so many of you, and thank you for everything. And I'm going to salute out. I appreciate you all.
Thanks a lot, Lisa. Appreciate you as well.
Yeah.
Ron, I just have one other follow-up. You probably did reference this, and I know I let you know earlier. I wanted to know about this. Questions regarding waiting lists for hotspots and what you can tell us about that to help out.
Yeah, really quickly, there are 50 hotspots available. Spoke to our Chief of Staff, Larry Johnson, before the meeting. If we have a teacher who needs a hotspot, he or she may call 819-2487. That's our help desk. If there are families who need hotspots for their students, that's 301-1111. We did not run out. There are 50 available. So please call those numbers if you need one.
Okay, so there are available for people that need them currently.
Correct. And so by calling that number, there are 2 days on which we are distributing tech. Tuesdays between 9 and 12, of course, and then Thursdays between 1 and 4. Those are our normally scheduled times. And then by appointment after 4 on Thursdays. Of course, we want you to call those numbers first so that we know that you're coming. But again, 301-1111 if you need tech or a hotspot or something comparable. And then if you're a teacher, 819-2487 if you do not have internet access at this time.